ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday morning, August the 26th. Very comfortable temperatures across a wide area of the nation, and certainly looks like in the mid-Atlantic, the northeast U.S., we'll have comfortable temperatures right through the upcoming Labor Day weekend. That takes us to Monday, the beginning of the month of September, and certainly August has been quite kind to a good part of the nation, especially in the eastern part of the U.S. It looks like, again, we will have very comfortable temperatures going through the next several days. In fact, in some areas of the mid-Atlantic region, by late this week, early this weekend, overnight lows could very well drop into the mid to upper 40s in some spots. Certainly across places like northeastern PA, you'll see the 40s by the end of this work weekend going into the long Labor Day weekend. It will be a dry pattern as well. Many of you may recall that last fall we had some very, very dry weather. Philadelphia, for example, did not have any official rainfall during the month of October. That was almost a year ago now, and it looks like this next stretch with these comfortable temperatures will be quite dry indeed. In fact, let's start off here with the total precipitation amount over the next 10 days as depicted by last night's run of the GFS model. Notice here in the much of the eastern part of the nation, very little rainfall over the next 10 days or so, again, as predicted by the 0Z run of the GFS. Along the west coast, similar, very little rainfall here and there. We're getting into the heart of the wildfire season. There is a wildfire now across the northern part of California, Napa Valley region, and not much relief in terms of rainfall expected over the next 10 days or so. The one area of the country that does get a fair amount of rain over the next several days, the south central states here, Texas, all the way up to Nebraska and Oklahoma. Certainly will get some decent rainfall, looks like, over the next 10 days or so, and that goes along with much of the Gulf region here from Florida to Louisiana. But again, very dry pattern with these comfortable temperatures here going forward in much of the eastern part of the nation. Now, we talked about relatively quiet time right now in the Atlantic Basin with respect to tropical activity. There continues to be Tropical Storm Ferdinand, but it is out over the open waters of the central Atlantic, headed harmlessly to the north and east towards the colder waters of the North Atlantic. Will not impact at all the U.S. mainland. And the MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, one of these teleconnection indices we like to follow here at ArcfieldWeather.com, not in a favorable position for Atlantic Basin activity over the next, let's say, week to 10 days or so. And the upper level pattern is not too conducive either as well for tropical activity impacting the eastern U.S. or even the southern U.S. over the next week to 10 days or so. I always like to look for ridging this time of the year over the southeastern part of Canada. That sends a red flag to me that there can be some tropical activity undercutting that ridge, perhaps moving from east to west towards the southwestern Atlantic, the Gulf, the Caribbean Sea. That doesn't really kick in maybe until September 10th or 11th or so, so that may be the next time period for more activity in the Atlantic Basin. We're starting off right here with a North America view of the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern and quite an impressive upper level trough, really extending from the Hudson Bay region of Canada down into the Tennessee Valley. Again, comfortable temperatures associated with that. We'll move forward and we'll see that general pattern of a trough in the eastern U.S. will kind of continue for quite a while here, off and on, at least for the next week to 10 days or so. This now takes us all the way to Labor Day weekend. This is Sunday and going into Monday morning, Labor Day. Still low pressure situated here over southeastern part of Canada, northeastern part of the U.S. Yes, there is a ridge that tries to build in, but it doesn't really get that opportunity here. Now we're right here. We'll have to watch this time period, but it's kind of a temporary occurrence here by the middle of next week, in the latter part of next week, kind of a progressive ridge here, followed rather soon by another deep upper level trough extending all the way from the polar region down into the Great Lakes region. This is all the way out now to the following weekend, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend around September 6th or so. Then it is this time that we start to see some upper level ridging really start to build here over the southeastern part of Canada right here towards the end of this time frame, right in this area right here. This is kind of a favorable position here that could allow for some tropical activity to undercut this ridge, but this is way out there in the forecast around September 10th or 11th or so. So we'll continue to monitor this over the next several days. But for now, a relatively quiet look to the Atlantic Basin tropical season as we grind through the rest of August into the early part of September. Now, a very impressive, widespread, colder than normal air mass for this time of the year currently encompasses the entire area from southeastern Canada to the south central U.S. here. This is very impressive indeed. We showed the North Atlantic Oscillation Teleconnection Index plot yesterday. It's been generally below neutral in the negative territory over the last few weeks. That is conducive to cold air outbreaks making their way from northern Canada into the central U.S. It's a teleconnection index we really focus in on during the winter season, but I'd like to take a look at it during the fall as well, because recent observations show that if the NAO is largely negative in the fall, it's largely negative in the winter season. So it's one of the factors I use to come up with a winter outlook, which isn't all that far away here. We're, again, headed towards the month of September. Now, let's move forward here. This will not be the only cold air outbreak over the next several days. Here comes kind of a reinforcing shot here by the upcoming weekend over the Great Lakes at first, and then it slips on into the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast U.S. by the upcoming weekend. Saturday begins college football in many areas. State College, for example, has a game up at Penn State. It will be fall-like football weather here for sure. And again, the 40s, commonplace in the northeastern states. Friday night, probably again Saturday night here with this second push of cooler than normal air. Now, there is some warmer than normal air for sure up across the western part of Canada, but colder than normal air masses work their way, in this particular case, from way up there, northern Canada, sliding into the U.S., and this is towards the latter part of next week, about 9 or 10 days out from right now, and that continues to slide to the south. And it's a very impressive look here with widespread colder than normal conditions by the end of next week from the North Pole region all the way into the central states. And we'll continue to monitor this kind of a pattern and the NAO index in particular over the next several weeks to see how it acts during the fall season. Now let's wrap up with surface forecast maps, again using the 0-0 of the GFS. Canadian high pressure has dropped into the heartland, and it controls the weather throughout a large part of the eastern U.S. with comfortable temperatures and dry conditions. Really the only rain to speak of later today out across the interior west, the Rocky Mountain states here, dry throughout much of the eastern part of the nation. And it is a relatively dry pattern going forward here into next week across many of those areas that experienced some very dry weather last fall as well. So we'll monitor that situation also over the next several days. Here we go into the end of the work week. And this is a frontal system, kind of a reinforcing shot of cold air behind this cold front. Not all that much activity in terms of rainfall associated with this. In fact, it's possible that front comes through the Mid-Atlantic region relatively dry, maybe a shower late in the day on Friday, but then that second Canadian high pressure system moves on in, and here we are on Saturday, the Labor Day weekend, the first day of some college football, fall-like weather. Again, overnight lows Friday night in the 40s in many parts of the Mid-Atlantic, northeastern states, and it looks like dry comfortably cool conditions right through the Labor Day weekend. Here we go into Monday, Labor Day itself. This is the beginning of the month of September. August will no doubt end up with below normal temperatures. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City already below, and certainly the next several days will just add to that departure from normal. Here we go into Monday of next week, and finally that high tends to slide off the coast by the time we get to a week from right now here next Tuesday. That could open the door for some milder and more moist conditions heading into the eastern states, but for now, next several days, comfortable temperatures, dry conditions over a large part of the eastern states. It remains dry also out along the western coast area, and we'll have to watch for wildfires as we transition to the month of September and especially October wildfire season as well. So for ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Ory.